Welcome to the 100 Master Coaches series featuring master coaches from around the world. Let's journey together on this 100 Master Coaches series with your host, Coach Mel, MCC. Dr. Marcia Reynolds, MCC, is a world-renowned expert on inspiring change through conversations. She is a past president of ICF Global and one of 10 coaches recognized in the ICF Circle of Distinction. She has delivered programs and coached leaders in 41 countries and reached thousands more people online. Marcia has 4 award-winning books, including her latest bestseller, Coach the Person, Not the Problem. Now on to the show.
Hello, and welcome to the 100 Master Coaches show. This is Coach Mel, and today I have a special guest. She is Marcia Reynolds from Arizona, USA. Welcome to the show, Marcia.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
You're welcome. There's just so much about you that I would love to feature on the show. And we've got our questions to ask, obviously. But to kick it off, perhaps I would like to just ask about you as a person, you as Marcia. Tell us a little bit about you and your journey, into what you're doing right now.
It has been a journey, so it
Okay.
wasn't just a decision. And I'm sure that's the same for most every coach we know.
Yeah.
And my first job was actually an accidental career. And I learned when I was doing my doctoral research that a lot of people have accidental careers. They just kind of like landed in something and said, oh, this is interesting. So my first master's degree, which is also an interesting fact most people don't know, was in broadcasting.
Oh, wow. Broadcasting.
Yeah, right.
That's
and
nice.
I thought I was going to do like to produce industrial television, which I ended up doing, but it landed me in a training department, actually in a psychiatric hospital.
Oh, okay.
And my
Okay.
boss, she decided to go get her doctorate and dump the entire department in my lap. I had no experience in designing training, but she said, you know what? I know you can figure this out. I know you can, and I know you will. And I don't know if she meant that because she trusted me or just because she didn't want to do it. I don't know. I was very young, in my 20s. But my first assignment was management training. So I went to get my second master's because I needed to figure out what I was doing. So my second master's was in adult learning and instructional design. Well, it got me so fascinated with the whole question, how do people learn? How do they change their behavior? Yeah. So I was constantly seeking that and studying and designing my programs and trying to make them better. And people loved my classes, but then they go back and do the same old thing. And it wasn't until I was leaving my last position, I worked for 2 other companies after that. It was the week I resigned, somebody sent me an article about coaching. And I said, well, this is fascinating. I know that one-on-one conversations really make a difference in helping people explore why they're not doing something, what's possible. And I didn't know exactly how to do that. So I signed up for a coaching school, 1995.
Oh, wow.
It's why I was part of the ICF early on, because I helped to create it. And I found, and at the same time, emotional intelligence was coming out, and I got fascinated with the brain. And, coaching is a learning technology. It's not therapy. It's not a psychology. It's a learning technology. It really is how we learn. So that's why I went to get my doctorate, to learn more. And I found what I had been seeking all those years. This is how we learn. This is how we help people change their minds. So they see themselves differently and the world differently, which changes their behavior. So I found how to create long-term behavioral change through coaching. So that's the journey. And that's why I'm
Wow.
so passionate about coaching.
So Marcia, well done. 25 years and counting.
In
um,
coaching, right?
yes,
Yeah.
that's right. In coaching, and before, obviously, that very
Another
interesting role.
16 years working for companies. Yeah.
Wow, wow, wow. I notice that you have been in quite a few countries. Do you want to tell us just a little bit about that travels all around the world?
Yeah. The second two companies I worked for were tech
Mm,
companies. One was
okay.
computer, the second one was semiconductor,
Mm.
and they were global. We had factories all over, and so they traveled me. So I've been
Ah,
traveling
that's beautiful.
for over 30 years internationally. So when I went to start my own coaching business, my mindset was the world, not
Mm,
local.
mm.
So I was one of the first coaches to have a website. And got a lot of business from it actually because I had the courage to put something out there.
That's
And
right. In the internet.
yeah,
That's new.
right. And so I started to create my visibility early on.
Mm.
I wrote Outsmart Your Brain, my first
Yeah,
book,
yeah.
and that started getting me visibility in different countries. So I started teaching coaching and emotional intelligence. I was asked to teach in Russia, in Kenya, in a lot of different countries
Mm,
that hadn't had anybody teach those
mm,
things
mm.
before. I mean, certainly other countries, but those were new.
Yeah,
And and then I got involved with the ICF, and it's global, and
yeah,
so I have visibility, and so my business was always global because I had the mindset of global.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, would love to ask you how that first 5 years went for you. There are a lot of young coaches coming in, and they would often come and speak to me on the side and say, "Hey, Mel, the first 1-2 years are already difficult. I can't imagine 5 years into the business." Do you want to
Yeah.
just share some thoughts on that first 5 years of your journey?
Yeah. Well, not only was I developing a coaching business, but I was
Mm,
developing a speaking business too.
okay.
I like to speak at conferences, and I was
Mm,
doing leadership conferences. And one thing I learned from my speakers, they always said, count on that it's going to take you 5 years to build a business to where, the business, you've got referrals and a pipeline. So
mm.
in my mind, I wasn't expecting to have a big business in just
Okay.
2 years.
Okay.
Now I actually did develop my business quicker than that, but I
Mm,
think that's part of it. People think in a year they're going to have a business and then they get
yeah.
disappointed.
Yeah.
It takes time to get out there, to build on what you have, to have case studies. And one of the ways I get business is having successful case studies. I
Mm,
write them in all my books,
beautiful.
in Wonder Woman, in Discomfort Zone, in Coach the Person. I have case studies, and people say, "Oh, that's me." And then they
Mm,
contact me and want me to hire them. So
mm,
I had to develop that.
mm,
But there's
mm,
one other thing I want to share. Um, a lot of times coaches are afraid to get out there because they're like,
mm.
well, I don't know what value
Tell
I
me about it.
provide.
Yeah.
I'm not very good. I also had a really good thing happen in my first coaching class.
Mm.
Thomas Leonard, who
Oh, wow. Yes.
created Coach You and
Yeah.
ICF,
ICF.
he was teaching the class.
Oh,
And
wow.
he says, you got to go out there and coach. It's the only way that you can get good and develop your business. And we're like, how can we coach? We don't know what we're doing. And he said, just go love them.
Wow. Just
You know,
go love them. That's beautiful.
and that's when I realized, in fact, I share this in my my master class, that it's more about the safe space you create than the perfection of your skill. And that you'll get better with skills, but you provide great value, allowing people to show up, be themselves, and not feel judged. You know, because there's so much that they can explore when they're not afraid. So I think that's a really important thing to remember.
Absolutely, Marcia. And that's one of the words that when I created my purpose, brave came up for me. And that's one of the attributes I would dare say that I would want to gift to my coachees, right? It's in a way that brave has been there all the while, but it's through that coaching journey that brave comes out for them. Thank you for saying that. You
Yeah,
know,
you're welcome.
25 years. I'm sure there are tons of insights, but we're going to distill it and ask you for your top 3 insights that you want to share on the show.
Well, the first one I just shared that,
Yeah.
and the way I stated is they want you to be present more than they need you to be perfect. I think that's whether
Beautiful.
you're a coach, you're a leader, you're a parent. I think that's very, very important.
Yeah. Yeah.
The second thing is, I think this is where coaches get stuck and get lost, is they don't really know where they're going.
Wow.
And so really looking at what is this person really wants, and what does that look like? They get stuck in the problem, or like I was just mentoring a coach, and she kept focusing on, the woman said, well, I need to ask my family for help. um, well, so how are you going to do that? You know, and at one point she said, well, that's not really it. They always help me. It was more about clarifying, you know, but both of those are actions. It's like, if you did get them to help you, and you were, you know, set your boundaries and clarified what you needed, what would you have? What would it look like? So they don't know how to create a destination for the coaching. And so they just go in circles and get really stuck. You have to know that, because the clients will get, when it starts to feel uncomfortable, they'll change the subject, you know, or they'll just agree with you. Yeah. And that's what she did. She goes, yeah, it's about asking for help. Well, it wasn't really.
Obviously. Yeah.
Yeah, right. It was really all in her head, about, you know, how she was worried, about being clear with her boundaries and how people would react. There was a lot of stuff going on that the coach missed because she got stuck on this action instead of the final destination.
That's beautiful.
So, yeah, and I missed that in my coach training. We really didn't get there. That's something I've learned down the years. Then, you know,
So
the third one is to remember, you know, the ICF definition of coaching, the part of it that often disappears from the website and people forget. The definition says, you know, we partner with our client. And that's what distinguishes coaching from consulting, from therapy, is that we're a partner. But the second part of that is because we believe our clients are creative, resourceful, and whole.
That's right.
Okay. And there's no school that made that up. I know that a lot of people think there's a school that did. No. Alfred Adler said that, you know, when he broke from Freud, he said, people aren't inherently broken. They're creative and resourceful, and we need to help them bring that out. It was he who really defined that that's what we do. And so we have to remember they're not broken. They don't need us to fix them, to heal them, to save them. We have to trust, even when they show emotions and they get stuck. Sometimes it's just about holding silence, because they will come up. We cannot let go of that, you know, and become the expert.
That's
I always,
beautiful.
Are you willing to give up being the expert in order to be the coach?
Wow, wow, that's so amazing. And just that last statement that you say, giving up that reins of control, right? That being
Mhm.
able to tell someone something from you because you feel that you want to value add into their lives. And how
Mhm.
often we do that sometimes in life perspective. um
Right.
I know as a parent
Mhm.
myself,
Mhm.
I would go in and I would say, hey, I want to have a chat with you, but instead halfway down the road I begin
Jump
to
in. Yeah.
jump in, do a bit of saving,
Mhm.
do a bit of giving the
Yeah.
direction on top of that,
Mhm.
a little bit on backwards of what you were saying. And then of course not being present, I lose it all.
Right.
And I've had to learn through that process, and it's definitely not different from working with the best of us out there, the leaders of
Yeah.
organizations.
Mhm.
Would you mind just sharing with us a story that when you did that with some great leader in that organization, that this really just gave him or her this realization that, oh my gosh, I've got to really let go and allow the process to happen.
Oh, that's interesting. It's often around the leader's definition of
Mm.
leadership,
Oh wow.
that we end up
It's true.
exploring, yeah, not their behavior, but
Mm.
how they define being a leader.
Mm.
So I had a gentleman who was well known as he was such an expert in water rights, and
Mm.
it was like he was one of the few people in the country that had the level of knowledge he had. And but he came to me. We were coaching because he wanted to be seen as a leader. He wanted to be
Mm.
promoted. He wanted to move up. Well, I did a live 360, where I talked to people, and because he was
Yep.
having trouble in his meetings.
Mm.
And, they all said he has so much to offer, but that's all he does. He doesn't listen to us, he never engages us, and so he
Yeah.
either creates arguments or people just give up.
Mm.
So I went back to him and I said, and I summarized the feedback, and he said, I know who said that. And I said, no, everybody said that, even the people who like you.
That's amazing.
And so I said, I know it's important for you to be the expert,
Mm.
um, but can we look at what being a leader in those meetings
Wow.
looks like instead
Mm.
of being the expert?
Wow.
And it was a journey, because he had to truly let go of being the expert. Everyone knew he was an expert. He didn't have to prove
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And if they needed the information, they would go to him. But to
Mm.
truly be the leader, to engage people, to hear their ideas, to
Wow.
to spark their creativity,
Yeah.
he really had to work at that. But he committed to being the leader instead of being the expert. So
Mm. Thank you. That is an amazing story. And how true it just probably rings when people listen to that. They would kind of say, that's either me or someone I know.
yeah, I'll tell you, I have so many cases of the same thing, where it's like, okay, so you need to be seen as a leader. What does that mean?
We're going to that brave question now, Marcia.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think would be your bravest moment as a coach over this last 25 years?
Mm. Actually, there's probably many, but I have to say I
Mm.
probably am facing it right now. Because
Tell us about it.
a lot of anxiety. You know, I'm doing this big program with WBEX. It's 6 months, and we've got to enroll a whole bunch of people. And I'm like, I just do my thing. You know, I've never done, a huge program with a staff and, you know, and needing to like engage, 1,000 coaches, or it's like, and I'm scared to death. You know, what if they don't want to be with me? You know, it's a lot of responsibility. It's one thing just to
Definitely.
put myself out there and write my
Yeah.
books, and people call me and I can coach them. And I teach in coaching schools,
Yeah.
in 4 different coaching schools.
Wow.
I love that. I love traveling and working with coaches. But putting a great big, 6-month program out into the world, with all the elements that are in it, it's scary. I'm frightened. I'm very frightened, you know. It's the whole thing, what coaches go through, that whole, I'm not a marketer, I'm not a salesperson, it's that whole story I'm telling. So I'm telling a story like, oh my God, why, this is not going to work. They're not going to do it. It's just a funny thing we do, no matter who we are and how much credibility we have. And I know that. And I have to tell you, people have been emailing me all day like, oh, you're starting your program. Congratulations. You're going to do great. I'm like, really?
And it's adding on to that on you. It's like, oh, okay.
Oh, yeah. I got to enroll people. Yeah, really. So I've chosen not to build a big business, that I just do my own thing. I've chosen that because it just felt better for me. So to step into a bigger endeavor, to play a bigger game, that's a little harder.
That takes just a little bit more bravery, and I know you've got that. You've got this, Marcia. You've got this. I've seen the wonderful promotions going out. I love it, and I may be that 1,115th person that will be signing up, and I'll be off. I don't know whether you'll have the off mute button there, and I'll be like, hey, Marcia, it's me here to support you.
Always let me know. Well, we've got 12,000 people have signed up for my free masterclass, so but I'm still scared. So I just want people to know that I still get scared, when we go through this whole thing of, will I build my business? Will people sign up? Will they show up? It's scary, but you just keep putting yourself out there. Even my books, as I'm writing my books, it's like, who's going to read this book? And they do really well, but there's always that question. Will I succeed?
Wow.
And that you have to work through it and trust that it's all going to be just perfect.
Is there ever a guarantee of how it will be? Like, is there ever like, you get into something and you knew it was going to succeed? Or was it always the taking of that steps and just working on it, or what we call hustling on it, and then it becomes a success? What do you think?
Well, it depends. In terms of like delivering training, I have no doubts that I'm good at that. But again, recognize I've been a trainer since 1981, for longer than a lot of people watching this are even alive, and so I have no doubts that I can train well.
Yeah.
So it's the whole, marketing. It's like the things that I have not been doing for years. I know I can coach well. I know I mentor well. I know I teach coaching well. And I love it. I love it. And people are always happy with that. it's just the, you know, the business building things that, you know, that are just, it's just, again, it's just my story. I know that, but it's just harder for me to count on that. But I think anxiety is not bad.
Yeah, that's true. A little bit of it.
I'll work harder. I'll do better.
Yeah. And I'm going to ask you, if you had a chance to do it all over again, what would you do differently?
You know, I started my business thinking I was going to go teach leadership because that's what I did for years. Then I found this coaching thing, and that's what I called it for years, the coaching thing. And not recognizing that's where my business was coming from. And that I was early on developing, you know, following and coaching. And so if I had it to do over, I would recognize that coaching what should have been my focus, and not to split it with what I thought I was going to do, to really look at what does the market want from me, you know, and what they wanted from me was coaching. And so I would have loved to focus, like now it's just coaching. If you look at my website, it's coaching. It's all about coaching. I would have loved to have had the courage to just focus on that much earlier.
Wow, it's really, really beautiful for you to say that. And we all have a bit of liking and thinking we're doing good here and wanting to focus on the other thing, and then the fourth thing, and then the list goes on. And it's just really refreshing for you to say, focus on that area. And would you say it's because you focused on that strength? Do you call it a strength of yours, or do you call it a calling of yours? Of what words do you?
I think it's more of a calling. It's what, again, it's what the market was asking from me. I have many strengths. That's the problem. You know, it's like, well, I can do this and I can do this and I can do this.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
That was special. That was special. And people were telling me that, and I wasn't trusting it. So.
In your mind, Marcia, what do you think the future of coaching would look like, sound like, feel like?
You know, the fastest growing area is corporate. And I think especially, you know, there's internal coaches, but most companies that are creating a coaching culture, which is also a big thing, use both external coaches for the top people, and then have a pool of internal coaches. And so I think training internal coaches, coaching executives, having the courage to be straight with them, I think that's really growing and will continue to grow, and helping companies create coaching cultures and teaching leaders to use coaching skills. That's going to continue to grow and grow, because people are demanding more interaction and conversations with their leaders. So that's really important. I see that as one of the biggest growth areas for the future. The acceptance of coaching at all levels is growing. So I don't see it going away. I think we need to get through the crisis that we're dealing with now, you know, and the economies need to stabilize. But once that happens, I think we'll be back on track.
I'm tempted to ask you about your involvement with the ICF in that sense, but in the context of being one of the people that was pioneering that work, and it's 25 years, obviously, to now, there are still people who do not want to be associated with the ICF, or in a sense get credentialed. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, if they want to build a business, they got to have the credential. You know, the ICF is they're great marketers. And I've been hired numbers of times. That's my differentiator, is my master certified coach.
Yeah.
So I also have a doctorate. You know, I have other credentials. It's the combination of credentials. So, you know, to say I don't need it doesn't matter if you need it in terms of skill wise. It's just it's something you need to demonstrate, because people don't have time to vet you. So if they know you have that credential, then they can trust that you know how to coach. So it's an essential thing for your success. As a life coach, maybe not so much. As a business corporate coach, absolutely necessary. So and that's from my experience. But I think that also, if you look at the ICF research, that's there too. I know that a lot of people, they don't like the ICF, whatever. You don't have to like them.
Yeah, it's true.
Know?
It's
and
true.
I love the new competencies that they've created are even better. You know, it'll clear up some of the misunderstandings around what you're supposed to do. You know, how many times I hear well-known coaches say, well, the ICF wouldn't like this. And I'm like, that's really stupid. You know, if you're giving advice, you're not coaching. So of course, the ICF like
absolutely,
that, you know?
absolutely.
Don't tell me you're coaching. But the whole idea, you know, it's like, nobody ever said you can't ask a closed question, and nobody ever said you're only supposed to ask questions. That's you know, how many times I've heard people say, oh, well, you know, the ICF, you're supposed to ask people, how are you feeling? It's like, no, I never want to hear that question ever. And so, yes, I ask closed questions when I'm clarifying. And I use reflection even more than questions. So there's, you know, the rigidity is all in their head. It's all in their head. They don't understand the competencies because they haven't gone for certification. And so they're judging something, they don't know what they're talking about.
Wow.
And
wow.
I'm very adamant about that.
Come on. Thank you for saying that. Woo! We're coming almost to the tail end of our very, very lovely interview. There's this question on your master wisdom. What is that nugget that you want to leave behind for the budding coaches coming in our beautiful industry?
You know, well, I talked about the importance of presence. But all coaches need to know how to align their three intelligences, you know, their head, their heart, and their gut. And, you know, when you're stuck in a coaching session, just to say, okay, so what is my heart telling me? Or what is my gut telling me? So to really learn how to open those centers, because they're always talking to each other. We just don't listen. So how do you open them and how do you listen? It's such a critical part of your development to do that. So wherever you go to get that training, there's a number of places you can. I truly recommend that you learn how to do that.
Wow. That whole alignment of the mind, the heart, and the gut. That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
And it's certainly in my books. And on my website.
Lovely. We ask powerful questions, and yes, you are right. Not just open-ended. It's closed ones are important as well. Reflection is important. What would be your powerful question that you want to leave behind for the audience today?
What is the story that you're telling yourself that's getting in your way?
What is the story that you're telling yourself that is getting in your way? I'm going to use that. That's so beautiful. That's so beautiful. Wow, this is the time where I ask all of my guests to give us a couple of handles so that we can get in contact with you, and of course get into your wonderful programs that are happening on WBEX.
Yeah.
So you want to just share some handles for them?
Mm-hmm. Well, my website is covisioning.com, one word, covisioning. And there's all kinds of free resources and things if you just, go play on my website. I'm on LinkedIn. Link with me there. As you said, you see all over LinkedIn and Facebook. They're promoting my masterclass, but just reach out to me. I'm happy to give you the link. But just go on WBEX.com and you'll see it. You'll see me. So, but find me again. I'm just Marcia Reynolds on LinkedIn. I'm easy to find. Because I got my name early on because I know to get in there and quickly.
That's right. Well done. Thank you so much for being on the show, Marcia. I would just love to ask you for just one last thought that you want to give to us before you take a bow.
I love the new coaching competencies because they have the new competency of coaching mindset. And I think that's going to help because it's an integration of being a coach and doing coaching. And coaches get too stuck in the doing. I have to do all this right. I have to, get my certification, so I've got to hit all the competencies. They get stuck in the doing and they forget the being, and you've got to integrate both of them or you will never be able to do the skills well. So
the doing, the being present.
Right.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much.
Managing yourself. You're welcome.
This has been the 100 Master Coaches, and today with my special guest, Marcia Reynolds from Arizona, and very soon on WBEX. So catch her on there. Thank you so much. See you on the next one. Take care now. Bye-bye.
Bye.
You have been watching the 100 Master Coaches series with your host, Coach Mel, MCC. Brought to you by Catalyst Coach. www.catalystcoach.live. We will be right back with our next Master Coach on the 100 Master Coaches series.